This is a pretty rare model that not a lot of people know about. 76 style Explorer with gold hardware, ebony fretboard, and the vintage short vibrola system. Now I say a 76 style Explorer specifically because a lot of people incorrectly assume these are also Korina because they have a very 50s aesthetic to them, but no, they are straight up mahogany and they were part of the Guitar of the Week series. Now if you're not familiar with what that is, you can check out this episode where I tell you about all 47 guitars in the Guitar of the Week program. This one is number 43. The ones that rose to the top usually have some sort of an artist influencing behind them, or they were just a really cool model. For example, Week 47 was an EMG-equipped white Explorer. Who is that? Obviously James Hetfield. Week number 46 was the 3-pickup Black Beauty Custom. You could think Jimmy Page or one of the multiple other people that have used those. Week number 42 was unapologetically an Ace Frehley ripoff. And week 38, you could tie that into Angus Young. We documented that one here. But even things like week 39, it was basically a white Les Paul custom in a standard outfit. You could think Randy Rhoads or even Steve Jones. And even week 16 with the Silverburst and again, the custom standard configuration. I mean, for crying out loud, week 45 was actually canceled because it eventually became the Joan Jett signature melody maker proper. So I bring those up because this is actually a clone of a custom shop guitar that they produced in 2003. It's the Alan Collins Explorer, you know, Lynyrd Skynyrd. And you gotta remember, this was produced 2007. They weren't throwing these melody maker style vibrolas on hardly anything or any of the vintage style trems. So this was a very new, fresh thing for them to do. It's not like today where you can find it on so many different models. Well, at least the longer style Lyre vibrola. His looked like this. His actually was a true 50s Korina bodied one. It had the short vibrola put on it, but you can still see where the original stop bar stud holes were. It had an interesting bridge. Had the rosewood fretboard, it had a headstock repair, but it had the gold hardware and all that other good stuff. So this one matches the gold hardware, gives it the short vibrola stock from the factory, and plays around with some of the other specs to get you close. Trust me, those Alan Collins Explorers are expensive nowadays. Usually 20 grand plus, if you can find one. It's not a one-for-one replica. They were just trying to be sneaky, I guess you could say. Not have to pay the artist premium or necessarily associate anyone's name with it. That said, the official title of this one is Explorer with Short Vibrola. A little bit more to the story of how I found this one. It was just early morning reverb. However, on the back, I was kind of scared. Is this a crack or is that a mineral streak? I mean, it looked like that darkness ran right along the center seam line. So I just went ahead and bought it, decided to take the chance, and yeah, that's definitely just in the wood. But I'm glad I got a good deal on this because unfortunately this was not stored correctly. There is a massive ledge between the fretboard and the neck that honestly, I thought it was a crack when I first pulled it out of the case. Uh-oh. Ah, man. I'm feeling something I don't like on the neck here. Tell me it didn't get broken. Oh, no. It's just the fretboard is really shrunken in this area. That is unfortunately very uncomfortable to play as of right now. So let's go ahead and throw week number 46 onto the workbench to take an individual look at its parts and specs and get it fixed up here. Here she is after a little bit of TLC. Got all the gunk off of the gold, made it nice and shiny again, really fixed up those frets, conditioned our board so it's nice and even. Let's get into the guts. Pickups are a pretty steady set. You get the 57 Classic in the neck and the complementary 57 Classic Plus in the bridge, which read approximately 7.94 k ohms within the circuit in the neck, bridge 8.14, and the middle position just for fun should be around 5. I think I need to clean the electronics. Sometimes this thing goes crazy. Got a long neck tenon marked TA for the official finish color, Trans Amber. And here you can see the maple block that caps off your truss rod route. Then here we have DSXP, Designer Series Explorer. So we call it Trans Amber, right? That's what gives the mahogany this kind of yellowed hue. And I think that's why a lot of people think these things are actually Korina. That's the vibes they were going for here without actually using the real wood. This dark mahogany color is what the wood actually looks like if you didn't put any finish over top of it. This is in fact a 3-piece body, but my goodness, they did a good job matching that wood grain, at least on the top.
We were talking about those mineral streak lines. This is kind of what Korina does, because there's like bacteria in the wood that starts to eat it. That's how some of that staining can occur. But this is just in the wood grain, but it's kind of cool how some of it has it. Here's what our cavity route looks like underneath our pick guard. It's got the same mix match of colors due to the finish. And we've just got our regular 3-way toggle switch L style over here. And then we've got that white switch cap, and check it out. Our plastic film is still over top of the pick guard. That's just a doofy collector thing to be excited about, but it does help paint the story of this one. Based on what I had to clean off of this was somebody's office guitar or something that they'd seldomly played, because you don't actually see a lot of wear on the guitar. You could tell this was probably by a saltwater ocean where humidity levels were not perfect. That's why our fretboard expanded and contract. That's why we now have that ridge and why we had so much oxidation on both the gold hardware as well as the frets. So it's funny how you can learn about this guitar's life just by the condition it was in. Here's a look at our Nashville bridge now that it's been cleaned up. It's PW branded. Then here's what it looks like now. This is what it looked like before. It was all matted over like this. Kind of helps show you the transformation. It appears this is crafted different from vintage examples. Usually you don't see that connective joint. And normally I can remove this portion, but it's like seized on it, so I'm just gonna let it be. This also helps prove to us that this Starter Life is the Guitar of the Week version. We don't have stop bar studs in here. Normally, if you wanted to take a regular Explorer like this and then put that Vibrola on it, you would have 2 holes in the top right there that would still be exposed, just like on Alan Collins's original. During my teardown process, I noticed a Gibson factory error. You see this little route in the body and that wire coming through? That's how you ground off your trem system. This little wire wasn't actually pulled out far enough at the factory, so I had to pull it out a little bit, so my trem wasn't actually grounded. Another kind of interesting factory error on this one is the pickguard's just a little bit too large, to the point where the pickup ring has to sit over top of that. I'd first noticed it when I took it apart because I had all the screws out for the pickguard, but the thing wouldn't come up. I'd be curious if other owners of these has that same thing going on. Got 2 volumes and a master tone. I'm a little bit suspicious of these speed knobs. I think they might have been replaced. They don't quite feel right. Moving on from our body, we need to talk about this ebony fretboard. You don't find ebony boards on Explorers very often. The fact that it has it is really cool because not only do we have like some 58-like elements to this Explorer with primarily 76 specs, but this ties in the 80s Explorers because a lot of those did have the ebony boards. Kind of a cool amalgamation of the 3 most popular Explorer styles. We've got our regular acrylic dot inlays. I didn't see anything too major to note on our fretboard. This doesn't look like it's been played much at all, but after conditioning it, it's definitely a lot darker and healthier looking. We have the typical 24 3/4 inch scale and 12 inch fretboard radius with a nut measuring 1.7 inches, and that increases to 2.11 by the 12th. First fret neck depth 0.81, increasing to 0.88 by the 12th. There's the neck at the 1st fret and the 12th fret. Starts really rounded C, but then flattens up just a little bit, but still stays round. I would personally categorize it more so as a 60s neck. It's just such a shame this wasn't kept in a humidity-controlled environment because you can see where the frets have sprouted and somebody went through and filed them down, so they at least aren't sharp, but you still have that really sharp fretboard edge because you know the levels were bad when the inlays on the side of the neck were starting to pop out. Even if this does get restored back to where it should be, you'll always have a little bit of finish damage. Here's another thing that shows me this one was a stand baby. Unfortunately, we've got some stand rash and lacquer chipping around the edges. Not super noticeable, but definitely there. And you can see a lot more wear along the edge. At least our truss rod's fine. The cover itself is blank. And our tuners were able to be cleaned up. They were definitely pretty oxidized as well. And there's our mother of pearl Gibson logo. Now, how many pieces is the body? I know that looks like a seam line. The best way to tell where the lines actually are the side profile. So there's one seam, and then we've got another one right here. So it is a 3-piece body. There is a patch of scratches over here, and a couple of impressions and light nicks and dings. It was definitely moved around and played just a tad. But if you remember my Korina story from earlier, it's this patch right here where it's splotchy within it that really looks like it. But yeah, this was very concerning. Was that like a big crack? We can look right here and it doesn't even continue on there, so that's how you know. The only major blemish I'm seeing on the front here, something going on with the clear coat. It looks like something circle-ish impressed it Or maybe there's just a contamination in the finish. I don't know. It's not overly obvious, and you gotta get it in the light just right to see it. But to make up for that, there is a little bit of a dancing figuring in that area. Seeing as this is the first one to show up since I've been looking for one, I think I did pretty okay on the condition. Our control plate cover also has the plastic film on it. Here's what our wiring looks like. Gibson branded pots, all the work. I'm not gonna say it's the cleanest soldering job. Maybe it's been touched up, but who knows, maybe they were just having a bad day. That's just your output jack. Oh, not that big of a deal. And your output jack over here on the side. Then we have a strap button right here, and then one at the heel. To me, now it feels like it's standing proud. Probably wondering, is there anything we can do about this fretboard? You could add some lacquer to try to like blend it in, or you could sand the finish off and sand it completely flush again. To help reduce some of the sharp areas, if you have this on your guitar, you could potentially have somebody wet sand it down and then buff it back into a polish to help reduce the sharpness of the lacquer. But sometimes these things will start to flake. Like the actual finish will flake off and it becomes literally sharp. This one's not too bad. Should I ever find one that doesn't have that and I sell this, I do want you to be aware of that kind of slightly sharper ridge. Backside of the headstock, it's got some scratches and impressions as we were talking about from that stand. Unfortunately, Explorers sit weird on stands and get other impressions. Here's our serial number, 309th day of the year, 2007, initial batch, number 444. That's just that particular neck stamped that day, not proof that they made more than 400. And we can see our mini Grover tuners on this model. And all said and done, just a little under 9 pounds, 8 pounds, 12.6 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how it sounds.
Well, that was a lot of fun. I've never actually really tried to play Freebird before. Not saying I did a fantastic job, but it just seemed apropos for this particular guitar. And I'm happy to say I really did not notice the sharp fretboard edge while I was playing it, but you can definitely feel it when you just have your hands on the guitar. This particular one badly needs a setup. The nut's pinging, the bridge is pinging, it's moving. I wouldn't really suggest heavy use of this trem system until you get a proper setup on it. The toggle switch on this one, I probably should have cleaned it while I had it apart. It did give me a few dropout issues here and there, and it was pretty scratchy. Would I suggest everybody buy this particular version of the Explorer? Not really, because it's going to cost you about twice as much as a regular Explorer just because it was a limited edition. And really, the only thing you're going to get on this over the other Explorers that look similar is the ebony fretboard, which, I mean, yeah, it's a nice plus. But if you're a big Skynyrd fan and you just don't quite have the budget or you can't find one of the original Alan Collins signature Explorers, I guess in that aspect, it is worth it, especially if you have more of a collector mindset, that you like to have something that isn't always available on the market. That's what I personally like in my collection, things that you just can't always buy. But anyways, I hope you enjoy your newfound guitar knowledge, and now you know all about Guitar of the Week number 43 as we continue to piece together the entire set. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.